the culture war raging in the developed West now, in the States, in Europe, is, I think, a false war. A war between two versions of the same global capitalist system. It unrestrained pure version, which is this insistence on infinite dynamics, plasticity, LGBT, reinvent your identity all the time, and its neo-fascist conservative version, which tries to unite capitalist dynamism with more traditional values. The paradox is here double. The Western political correctness is a displacement of the good old class struggle. The liberal elite pretends to protect the threatened racial and sexual minorities in order to obfuscate the basic fact of their privileged economic and power position. And this lie allows the alt-right populists to present themselves as a defense of the real working class against the big corporations and the deep state elites. The paradox is thus that today's populist conservatives are more revolutionary than the politically correct liberals who are not afraid to call for social order and even police oppression when they feel this is needed. Like, we often hear the complaint, where were the police and National Guard on January 6, 2021? The implication to be drawn is not just that left and right are today outdated notions, but that both poles of today's Cold War can only be properly grasped as a displaced class struggle. Neither of them really stands for those exploited. And again, this is our tragic predicament today. You remember, I was, of course, my eyes were glued to the screen on January 6th of the previous year. You remember the crowd invading Capitol. But what shocked me so much is how many of my leftist friends in the United States and in Europe were crying, looking at it. They said, what is going on? We, the people, should be doing this. It's beautiful to watch it, but the wrong guys are doing it. That's our predicament today. I think, I even sometimes listen to Steve Bannon's podcasts or whatever. And did you notice how he's doing almost the same thing as Putin? He begins, like, if he has a 1-hour podcast talk, with the first 20 minutes, I almost fully agree. He describes how the big corporation, state, employees, ordinary, blah, 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 all that. Then, of course, things take a strange turn. It's the same I heard from my friends in Moscow, who are like with one leg in prison already, but with the other leg still running around, that Putin is doing the same. He doesn't have only Dugin and these religious Orthodox maniacs. Putin also mobilized a group of young Marxists who are providing him a more leftist third world line. They provided him with this line, Russia is really defending the world from Western imperialist colonization. We are on the side of all those exploited in the third world, and so on and so on. And I hope you are aware of this situation, how incredibly successful this Russian propaganda is. Not in the West, but in Latin America, in many parts of Asia, Africa, and so on and so on. So I think that maybe this is the crucial dilemma today. Our situation today is the one of crisis of a system itself. What conservatives got right is that this Fukuyama ideal of liberal democratic capitalism is in full crisis. In the sense of, you know what is for me the most ominous case? In England, in France, in United States, you have now protests which are no longer like in some parts of Eastern Europe, protests for true democracy. No, they articulate a doubt in our version of liberal democracy itself. And the tragedy is that there is no way to articulate in organized political way this rage. And with this, I want to conclude. We are back at the beginning of European history. My friend, although a right-winger, he's not stupid, Peter Sloterdijk, wrote a wonderful book, Being and Rage, Sein und Zorn, of course, an ironic paraphrase of Heidegger's Being in Time, where he said, what's at the beginning, at least in our mythic view of the Western culture, it's Homer Iliad. And what is the first line of Iliad? A call to the dead goddess, whatever, to allow him to do a poem on the rage of Achilles, which brought blah, blah, blah. Today, we have even a much more dangerous rage, this dissatisfaction, and what's really tragic is that the left is losing it. I think that, I agree here with the guy whom I criticized briefly, Varoufakis. I think that capitalism is changing already into something different. And either we will invent, I don't like to use the word communism, it's too crazy, but a really new social order to deal with the ongoing problems, or a new form of fascism, of neo-feudalism, let's call it, will take over. So, you know, what I would be really, my nightmare is, and Trump is already sending signals and so on, even Bolsonaro is more friendly towards Putin and so on. This pact between European and wherever, new populist conservatives and Russia and so on. That's the danger. And I don't think we are taking seriously this danger because we too much still believe in liberal democracy. I appreciate liberal democracy. It's a wonderful thing, but today it's a crisis because the only way to confront all the problems we have today is to make a step beyond. And that's the reason of my pessimism. You know why? To conclude, I don't, you know, in good old Marxist, all liberal times, we still could rely on historical fate necessity, like this Marxist fate of history is moving towards progress and so on. No, now we have to act against history. Historical tendency is towards a catastrophe. What will happen, I don't know. But I prefer to be a pessimist in order to awaken us. Sorry if I was too long. Thanks very much.